Let's look at another example. We have x minus 5 divided into 3x squared minus 11x minus 14. So, as we did before, we look at the first terms. X goes into 3x squared 3x times. To get the remainder, we take 3x times x minus 5, so we'll have 3x squared minus 15x. And now we subtract that. And I'm just going to go ahead and change the signs on both of those to subtract. 3x squared minus 3x squared cancels. Negative 11x plus 15x gives us 4x minus 14 just comes down because there's nothing else to combine with it. And we repeat the process again. X goes into 4x 4 times. 4 times x minus 5 is going to give us 4x minus 20. And when I subtract, I'll just change the sign on both. 4x minus 4x cancels to 0. Negative 14 and 20 makes a positive 6. And so that means that our answer is 3x plus 4 with a remainder of 6. What does that mean? That means that we can write our dividend, 3x squared minus 11x minus 14, as the product of x minus 5, the divisor, and the quotient, 3x plus 4. But since we have that remainder, we have to add that 6 in there to get this to work out correctly. Well, we have a lot of extra writing in here that we don't actually need. There is a shortcut to doing polynomial division called synthetic division. And let's see how it works. First of all, it's only going to work when our divisor is of the form x minus some number. If we had 2x minus some number, it wouldn't work. It's okay to have x plus a number because then we're just subtracting a negative to get that. Okay? Now when we're in that situation, there are a lot of things that we can just get rid of and still be able to accomplish the same thing. The first extra thing is we know at every step that we're going to be subtracting the first term. So when we multiply, this is going to end up being the same as this term. We really don't need to write that every time. So get rid of those. Another thing that we don't need to write is the x's. Because we know this is x squared, this is x, this is constant, it's just going in order. So we can get rid of all of these x's, including this one. Another thing we don't need is we don't need to rewrite this minus 14. Okay? And one more thing is, instead of multiplying by this negative number and then subtracting, so I'm changing a negative to a positive, let me just take the positive of that and add rather than subtracting. Okay? And so to write this out, with all those details taken out of it, it's going to look like this. We're basically dividing by 5. And we're going to divide it into these 3. How do we do that? Well, first, we're just going to bring down this 3. Okay? And what are we going to do with that 3? Well, that's the 3 that we wrote here. Okay? Below the bar is where our answer is going. And so that's going to correspond to the answer up here. So we get a 3 there. What did we do? We multiplied 3 times 5 to get 15. So we're going to multiply this 3 times 5, our divisor. 3 times 5, we get 15. Now, we added here. Negative 11 and 15 makes 4. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add. Negative 11 and 15 makes 4. What did we do with the 4? Well, that 4 ended up being our quotient in our quotient, and so we took 4 times 5, we got 20. So 4 times our divisor 5, we get 20. And then we took negative 14 plus 20 makes 6. We'll do the same thing. Negative 14 plus 20 makes 6. Okay, I'll put a little bar here to show that this last column represents our remainder. So what am I going to do to interpret this answer? This is the remainder. And then starting next to the remainder and moving to the left, I'm going to get my constant term, my x term, and if there were more terms, I would let the degree continue to rise, x squared, x cubed, and so on. So this is going to be 3x plus 4, remainder 6. Exactly the same answer we got using polynomial division, but with a whole lot less work and writing. And this is called synthetic division. Here's another example, and this is an example that we saw earlier. Y squared plus 3y minus 18 divided by y plus 6. Let's see how we can do this with synthetic division. Well, we're dividing by y minus 6. This is in the necessary format. The leading coefficient is 1. Okay, but it has to be of the form y minus a number. What number am I subtracting to get y plus 6? Well, I'm subtracting a negative 6. So here's the way I'm going to write this out. I'm going to put my negative 6 divisor up here in the corner. And then I'm going to write this out with all of the y's stripped out. I'm just going to write the coefficients. 1, 3, negative 18. Okay? Now, first one, I just bring down the 1. To get each number here, I multiply the answer by the divisor. So 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. 3 plus negative 6 gives me negative 3. Okay? Negative 3 times negative 6 is going to give me positive 18. And again, this last column is going to give us our remainder. Negative 18 and 18 is 0. So what does this tell me? Remainder is 0. This is my constant. This is my x term. So 1x, or just x. Therefore, the answer is x minus 3. One more example. 2x cubed plus 3x squared plus 5 divided by x minus 1. X minus 1, so the number we're subtracting from x, is our divisor. And now we need to write in our coefficients. 2, 3, and notice the missing x term here. So the coefficient of x is going to be 0. And then 5. I have to write this because here I've taken out all my x's, so the only way to keep track of what the degree is to put every single degree in. Constant x, x squared, x cubed. So if there are any missing terms, make sure to keep them represented with a 0. Okay? So to divide, bring down the 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 0 plus 5 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. And remember, we're still adding. 5 plus 5 is 10. Don't make the mistake of subtracting because these are the same. So we're going to end up with a remainder of 10. And this is constant x, x squared. So 2x squared plus 5x plus 5, remainder of 10. If I were to multiply 2x squared plus 5x plus 5 by x minus 1 and add 10 to that product, I would get 2x cubed plus 3x squared plus 5.